Right, let's begin with the breaking news that is coming in at the moment. The government has pulled up Western media for biased reporting on the Pahalgam terror attack. The government has taken a strong objection to the biased coverage. It's condemned the BBC for calling terrorists as militants. In fact, the Ministry of External Affairs has conveyed its concerns regarding BBC's usage of the term militants instead of terrorists. My colleague Pradeep Datta is joining us with more on this. Pradeep, once again, the Western media displaying the kind of hypocrisy that it has in the past several times. But the government of India now calling the BBC out, saying terrorists are terrorists, they should be called that and not militants.
Yes, a very strong message has been sent from the government of India side to these media houses like the BBC, that how come you start using word militant instead of terrorist and all, either call them a rebel, because that way you are not only minimizing the seriousness of the issue, but also you are distorting facts and also misleading audience, because they are the one who call themselves custodians of democracy and guardians of democracy. So is this the way the guardian of democracy should act and react, that they call these terrorist militants? And one thing the BBC should not forget, that if we talk about Hafiz Saeed, because this act was carried out by Lashkar-e-Toiba, and Lashkar-e-Toiba's chief is Hafiz Saeed. He's a designated global terrorist. And then if we talk about Lashkar-e-Toiba organization also, that has also been designated a terror organization. So where is that argument coming from that they are militants? Because when already the world is calling them terrorists, how come all of a sudden the BBC is deciding that this organization basically are the organization of militants? So that is where India's stand is quite clear. They want them not to distort fact. Now onwards, BBC will be under scanner. They will be going through their social media posts. They will be going through their bulletins also, and they will try to ensure that they do not use militant word or rebel word or gunman word in future, because they do not want any kind of duplicity while describing this terror-related element. When a person like, when an organization like terror organization like Lashkar-e-Toiba, they kill 28 people. So how come you call them a militant organization or you call them gunman or rebel? That way you are simply minimizing the seriousness of the issue, and you're only glorifying these elements. And by glorifying these elements, in future you will be...
What's also worrisome is the fact that this is not the first Western media outlet that is displaying the kind of hypocrisy that we have. Just a few days back, we had the New York Times as well calling this terror attack as a shooting incident, when it actually is a dastardly, bloody terror attack which was done on unarmed civilians.
Yes, you're absolutely right. In fact, that is what actually the government of India had been trying to tell them for long, because there is a terrorist is a terrorist. Terrorist can't be good terrorist and bad terrorist. And terrorist is not the only person who is involved in the 9/11 attack. Even the person who was involved in the 26/11 attack is a terrorist. So in this particular case also, if you are killing innocent people, and anything that flows from the barrel of the gun can't be called anything else but terrorism. So that is what actually the government of India is trying to explain to this organization. But unfortunately, there are certain elements who are controlling the editorial of these organizations, and they seem to be more pro-terror organizations. That's one of the reasons that we have seen that how they try to change narrative. This we have seen even during the Israel war. Nobody was talking about that Hamas has killed 1,600 people. Everybody was talking about Gaza, and they were also really concerned about this issue, that how certain organizations were trying to peddle one particular narrative instead of talking about the problems being faced by the people in Israel, because the women and children were also not spared. But nobody talked about them. Everybody talked about the atrocities being committed by Israel in Gaza. The same thing is happening here in this particular case also. So they are calling them militants, they are calling them rebel, they are calling them gunmen, but they are not calling them terrorists. The people who are responsible for eliminating and killing innocent, unarmed 28 tourists. So that is where actually India is concerned about. So India doesn't want that kind of a fake narrative or distorted version to be there, because by distorting version, you are only misleading audience, and that way you are not performing your duty, because on one hand you take very high moral ground so far as your editorial policy is concerned. Is this the editorial policy where you will start simply glorifying the terror-related organizations and terror-related elements? So that is where actually India has sent a message loud and clear to the BBC and other organizations.
Pradeep, it also comes, and very rightly, which was said by India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, that Europe wants the entire world to think that their problem is everybody's problem. But when it comes to other parts of the world, especially this part of the world, it is our problem and our problem alone. And they can label it and term it and paint it at their convenience. So that is probably now being called out very rightly by the government of India as well. But Pradeep, stay with us.